All right, folks, it is definitely a Monday. It is Monday, the 4th of December. It means that we're not that far away from Christmas. As a matter of fact, only about 3 weeks to go till that particular holiday and all along those lines. And of course, a number of things are happening in the world, including some news from the spy world. And I can't wait to hear what definitely folks have to say about this, as well as some of the other things that are taking place in the world, including some lighthearted items as well. But let me get to some of the serious news before I get to that spy news and some news involving the sports world that was kind of in the humorous realm as well. But let's get to some serious news first. Israel has ordered evacuations as it widens the offensive, but definitely that is what's going on in that area. So they are widening their offensive, and definitely there are some folks that are concerned about what is going on with the Palestinians in that area as well. But they are definitely hitting hard targets and all in that space. And apparently 3 commercial ships were hit by missiles in a Houthi attack in the Red Seas, and the U.S. warships have downed 3 drones. So definitely that is what is going on in that part of the world. And of course, a number of other things are taking place as well. There is a deadly eruption of Indonesia's Mount Merapi volcano traps that is going on, and that has trapped some climbers and all in that space. So 11 climbers have been killed and 12 are missing following that Indonesian volcano eruption. So that is something that is going on in the news that is of the sad state and all in that space. And the COP28 president has incorrectly said that the fossil fuel phase out is not necessary. So definitely there is some criticism mounting over that president after those comments and all in those ways and everything. So the climate summit leader defends the controversial comments that alarmed scientists and sent shockwaves through that particular meeting. And the U.S. Navy has responded after China claims an American warship illegally intruded into the South China Sea. So that is something that is going on in that space. And the Beijing is accusing the U.S. Navy of illegally entering South China Sea territory. So that is something that we're seeing in the news. And in other weather-related news, South India is evacuating thousands ahead of Cyclone Michong. So definitely that is something that folks are preparing for and all in that way. And Britain is announced measures aimed at bringing down net migration. So salary threshold for migrant worker visas set to rise under legal migration curbs. So that is something that Sunak is doing as he is announcing a major package of measures to cut immigration later on Monday. So that'll be later on today. And Venezuelans have voted to claim sovereignty over a part of oil-rich nation Guyana. So it does look like that conflict will be taking place as Venezuelans are backing the claim to the Guyana-controlled oil region. And Venezuelans have rejected the International Court of Justice ruling on the border dispute ruling. So it does look like that conflict may be taking place as well. And Narendra Modi's has had a triumph in his India state elections, and it definitely is showing that Modi is expanding his dominance in India. So definitely that is something that we are seeing in the news from India and all in that space. So definitely that's something that's going on. And we know that with the Ukraine-Russia war, there are sometimes concerns about how the weather might be impacted as well. And apparently over there in that area around Russia, temperatures in Siberia are to dip to minus 50 Celsius as record snow blankets Moscow. So while they're dealing with their war, they're also dealing with some very severe weather there as well. So that is something that I'm seeing in the news as well. And, we talk about gun violence, but there's other kinds of violence as well. As over there in Paris, a man has killed a German tourist in a knife attack near Eiffel Tower, according to police reports. So Paris knife attackers are representing the failure of psychiatric care, according to the France Interior Minister. And the Paris attacker apparently swore allegiance to an Islamic State group. So that is something else that we are seeing in the news as well. And if you're wondering about these bombs that are out there, apparently a World War II bomb was detonated off the coast of Denmark. So a World War II bomb was detonated off of that coast and all in that space. And don't forget that we've got that big debate coming up on the 6th, which will be the Republican debate. I think this is the final one for the year and all in that space. So we'll see if anybody makes any traction against Mr. Trump, the former president, and all along those lines. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well. And apparently, the Hong Kong pro-democracy activist Agnes Chow has jumped bail and has moved to Canada. So definitely, she is saying, "I won't return." That is what she reveals as she has moved to Canada and plans to skip bail. So that is something else in the news. And Ukraine has accused Russia of shooting surrendering soldiers. So they were saying that the soldiers were surrendering, and definitely that is what is going on in that part of the world as well. And as I said, Israel is ramping up its ground assault as more than 100 hostages are remaining in Gaza. So they are definitely upping their ground support to try to get those hostages and all in that space. And U.S. and Israeli officials have reacted to a blockbuster report that Israel knew Hamas was planning the attack. So that is something that, as I mentioned before, was put in the news, and definitely it was part of a New York Times report that Israel dismissed advance warnings of the Hamas attack. So I'm sure that this will be continuing conversation going on in the news as well. So I'll get to some national news and all in that space. And I've got Kim with me and Nick Valveda. And of course, it definitely looks like Sasha Starr is here, and we'll see who else pops in to the conversation. And we'll just get into these conversations and all along those lines. I'll get to the lighthearted news in a minute and all in that space. But one of the things that I was getting to mention, and I don't know whether folks have paid attention to this or not, was this notion of there being spies and spies out in the community, and some of these spies even being caught and all along those lines. So that is one of the news stories that I was going to get to and hear what folks had to say about it. But I heard that there was a spy that has been arrested, and apparently it was part of our government and all along those lines, and they are being accused of being a Cuban spy and all in that space. So I want to say that they had some connections to Bolivia and all along those lines, but we don't oftentimes realize that there are spies even in our own midst. But a former U.S. ambassador was arrested and accused of secretly serving as an agent to Cuba. So there was the former U.S. ambassador to Bolivia, according to some sources, and those charges were put over there in Miami and all along those lines. So I'll bring in Sasha, see what he's heard about this and just the notion of spies in general, because sometimes we don't realize that there are spies in our own midst and all in that space. So like I said, I had seen that news story earlier today as I was preparing for today's show, and there's a number of other things that we can get to as well. But as I've told you before, there was a gentleman that was part of one of those spy rings that was working with me at the company that I work for, Measurement, before after he had served his time and definitely been involved in the spy situation and all in that space. But we oftentimes don't think about there being spies in the United States, even though spies are all over the world and everything. But I just wondered if you had heard anything about this story, and if Nick wants to jump in, or even Lee Newton Rhodes, if there are any comments about this particular, it looks like Latin America spy that has been tied to Cuba.
Don't all holler at once.
Go
on, Sasha, if you got anything
I
to
want
say.
just to mention that spies are highly trained professionals who are paid pretty good money for doing their job. The job is somewhat dangerous. Is one of those jobs when you learn about business 101. The most profitable business as a return on investment is definitely robbing the banks. Though it's illegal and it's dangerous because you can get caught and get to jail. So there's a high risk, high reward situation. So same thing is with spies, and the most successful spies, by the way, they always change their colors and started to work for a country against they were spying for. And that's happened to many, even a lot of Russian prominent spies. They ended up starting to working for United States Secret Service, or sometimes they went into business and very successfully so, because they have excellent trainings in all languages and all many things. So spies are they're quite valuable, and if you know how to deal with them, you can turn it to your advantage.
Nick, any thoughts about that?
I don't know if you really want to call them spies. Let's change the name to what they really are: intelligence operations. Okay.
Yeah.
We have a
Agreed.
big one called the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, Mark. And the whole objective is to gather intelligence to see what the other side is doing. By the way, business, they have intelligence gathering all the time also. In other words, this is not unusual that our corporation will gather intelligence from other, corporations that are out there. That goes on all the time, trying to figure out what moves they're going to make so you know what moves you're going to make. So now what happens though in the CIA, they kind of expanded their mission from not just gathering intelligence, but subverting other governments. And there was a whole article on the internet about how we subverted all the, quite a few, not all, but almost every country in Latin America because they were adverse to the interest of America. It would not be uncommon also to see that Israel did have some intelligence operations that said, hey, Hamas is going to have an attack. But there's so much stuff going on right now that they may have said, well, they might have an attack, they might not. In other words, it wasn't a clear time, date, place, etc. For example, let me give you some of the things I'm going to predict, and I want the U.S. government to stop it. I'm going to predict wildfires in California. I'm going to predict tornadoes in Kansas and hurricanes along the Gulf Coast. Okay, great. So why isn't the government stopping it? You see what I mean? So if you say I'm going to predict there's going to be an attack by Hamas, that's like white noise. In other words, so
But
what?
Nick,
Nick, you can't compare the two.
But Nick, hold on a second. Well, I was actually going to make a comparison, and I was actually going to ask a question and everything, and y'all say that it is not the same and not all of along those lines. But as one that has done event promotions, and as I remember, even after 9/11, the chances of Durham, North Carolina being attacked were little to none. But I can tell you that Centerfest and some of our street festivals actually increased their security because of the fear of there being some sort of attack or something along those lines. So my question to everybody on this panel is, if Israel knew, and I know that as an event planner, I would want to give that heads up, if they knew that there was going to be an attack, and I know what you said, Sasha, the last time, did they know the exact time? You don't have to know the exact time, but if you know there's an attack, don't you at least want to give a heads up to the people that are planning the event so that they can make some security measures to try to protect against said attack and everything? So that would be my question as an event planner, is why did they not at least give these people a warning? Because my understanding is this is a very major event. It'd be like doing Burning Man and not telling the Burning Man people that something's about to jump off.
So maybe, Mark, you will go a little bit farther. Maybe you will go to say that Israel government helped Hamas to plan this operation and implement this operation, and not only Israeli government but also Mossad and also all others in Israel. Why? Well, they wanted to actually attack Gaza, but they didn't have any viable reason to do so. So now here comes Hamas and Palestinian people who participated in this attack just alongside with Hamas. So don't try to tell me that, well, Hamas attacked, but Palestinian people, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Yeah,
They hate Hamas. They wouldn't do it.
You know,
They did it. Come on.
people like to live in worlds of fantasies and conspiracies. Okay. In other words, so because the truth doesn't work for them, they just make it up. And everything is the world is a conspiracy. Now, years ago when I was in Florida, hanging around smart people, I moved to Georgia, sorry, Lee, hanging around dumb people. one of my law partners was going, do you know there are people around here that just, all they believe is in conspiracy theories? He was an attorney in Atlanta. I was going, no, they can't be that stupid. Then I lived in Georgia for a while. And yes, they are that stupid. They believe everything is a conspiracy. There's this big cabal out there taking over the world. Whatever they believe in, it's complete fantasy.
So Nick, hold on a second.
Conspiracies until they're proven true.
No, but Nick, Nick and Lee, hold on. So are we saying that COINTELPRO did not actually exist?
In the redneck world, everything is a blade conspiracies. There's some big cabal on top take care of them. But frankly, here's the real world. Let me tell you what the real world is. They don't give a rat's rear about you. And you're not worth conspiracying against, believe it or not. So just take your conspiracy theories and stick them in the trash can along with your self-worth, which is next to nothing. And that's my thoughts about their conspiracy theories.
But Nick,
one second, Mark. Nick, so you're saying it's conspiracy theory that Israel and Egypt and others knew or were warned ahead of time concerning October 7th. That's a conspiracy theory, or is it true?
I'm about to put this in the garbage, and I'll put that along with the conspiracy theories, because here's the reality. Just like I said, there's going to be wildfires in California. Really?
But there's a difference, though. You have to ask the question whenever someone says that. Who knew what and when? You can't back it up. I agree with you.
They've been yelling and screaming about doing trash for decades, and now it finally happened. Okay, but no, there was no conspiracy that Hamas leader called Netanyahu and say, "Hey, let's do a bigot." Come on, take your fantasies, take this, throw it in the garbage, and do something productive with your life. Okay, if you don't have a life, engage in your stupid conspiracy theories. And I did see the guy about the conspiracy on JFK. I even went and watched the video. You know what? He's full of it. He is full of it. He's full of himself. I'm sorry, bring him back on, Mark. I'll let him know. There wasn't anything that convinced me otherwise in his documentary that anything happened other than what the Warren Commission said about it. So I go. It's fine.
It's Johnson. Just one thing, Nick. Does the government ever lie? Nick, does the government ever lie?
Of course they lie. I mean, everybody.
So if the government lies and you're agreeing to that, then it's a conspiracy theory until it's proven that they lied.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's redneck wanting to live in.
Wait a minute. First of all, Nick, I take redneck as a badge of honor. I just want you to know that. It's not an insult.
What is a badge of honor?
Redneck.
Oh, well,
he claims he likes the title and everything.
Yeah.
But just really quickly, along those same lines and everything. But hold on a second, Nick. Along those same lines,
find the nearest toilet.
Nick, hold on a second.
Them down and do something productive with them.
But Nick, I've got two questions to ask both of y'all and everything, and one of them is involving Hamas and all along those lines. Because one of the things that I had read, and I've brought it up on this show before, is that the Hamas leaders have said several times on various networks and various things that they have been on that they, one, knew it was a suicide mission, and two, that they were hoping to disrupt the two-state solution and everything. So they have actually stated that was their intention. So they might have actually done their intention if that was their intention. But my question to you, Nick, is you said, and I think Lee alluded to this earlier, if you go back, and we go back to the civil rights era or the environmental movement era or a number of other eras, there have been attempts by the government to disrupt those movements and everything. So that would be considered to be almost like a conspiracy. So COINTELPRO was an actual activity that we were talking about spies earlier. They went into those movements and disrupted those movements intentionally. And all in that space.
But it's not. It's just like the CIA. We went into other countries to disrupt their countries. That's not a conspiracy. That's just.
Well, yeah, of course it is, Nick, because they denied it initially.
Yeah.
So until they admit it, it's a conspiracy.
Oh, come on, Lee. I mean, the thing is, the government lying. What a big surprise. But the conspiracy.
No, I agree with you. There's no shocker there.
Conspiracists have just really got to get a life. I'm serious.
Mark, I have a question.
What happened on October 7th was an abomination, all right? And the thing is, there was no conspiracy. It may have eventually happened because Netanyahu was putting the kibosh on was putting the big squeeze on the Palestinians and Hamas, and Hamas overreacted in their craziness without looking at move number 2, which doesn't surprise me. Netanyahu comes in and he's going to wipe out Hamas. So I don't see where the big conspiracy thing is. And why don't you spend your time doing something useful with your life especially the people in the South, which unfortunately got Alabama in the playoffs, which shouldn't be there, which I'm also going to get. Florida State should be there. Sorry. You should take those SEC people.
Those are important things in life.
What?
Well,
The important things in life. Football.
At least it's more entertaining than a phony
But
conspiracy theory. And yes,
I'm gonna
Kennedy's
take
not
Sasha's
died,
question,
one
but
person
before we
shot
get
him,
to
go back to
no,
sleep.
I'm gonna take Sasha's question. But before we get to Sasha's question, that's the lighthearted news that I was going to tease people about and everything, because some of these bowls have gotten a little bit ridiculous because they have crazy names, like the one that I believe UNC is going to is the Duke Mayo Bowl and everything, and they have instituted something that you'll love. This, Lee, is the first ever one. I don't know how this is going to work, but apparently we have the first edible mascot, because there is a bowl that one of the folks is going to called the Pop-Tart Bowl, and if you look at it, they are saying that it'll be the first edible mascot. So I don't know if I want to eat a mascot of Pop-Tarts that's been running around people's body and all in that space, because if you know anything about mascots, they are very a lot of exercise and they're in those outfits. So I'm not sure that I want to eat that, but that's just me.
Hey, conspiracy theorist, I got another great idea. The NFL didn't show Taylor Swift at the game the other day, and they're conspiring against Taylor Swift because they want the NFL to be front and center. There we go. There's something conspiracists can jump up and down about because they have nothing better to do with their lonely, disgusting lives, So yes, I believe watching a football game would be more.
Nick, Mark, you spoke about spies before. Nick, who is Robert Hansen?
I remember the name, but I think he was a spy and everything.
Yeah. Nick, who is Robert Hansen?
I have no clue. Who is he? You tell me.
He was a spy that was finally discovered, okay? But until he was discovered, it was conspiracy, was it not? That there were spies, there were moles in the United States government.
So? He
was one of the biggest spies that was discovered in the United States. Robert Hansen.
So what? I mean, the thing is, there's spies going on right now. I mean, that's the kind of thing. The sad part with the internet and social media and stuff, spy jobs are few and far between because a lot of the information is on ChatGPT.
Well, Nick, I want to come back.
I think it was very important. But
Nick, I want to come back to
spies in the United States right now. Oh, big conspiracy of Russia to take over the U.S. No.
Nick, I want to come to something that you brought up earlier and that Lee brought up as well. But
the United States trying to take over Russia. Come on, conspiracy.
But have there been incidences? Because whether you are a fan of the Clintons or whether you are a fan of Trump or a fan of a number of these other political figures, there is pretty much given notice, or most people believe that they have committed atrocious acts. I was a fan of Ron Brown, and if y'all know who Ron Brown was, he was definitely killed and everything. I don't
plane crash
accident, because he was killed on a plane, and there was like a lot of the bullet wounds and everything else give me the impression that it was a targeted hit. But that's just my impression. I don't know if Lee agrees with me or not, but it does seem a little suspicious the way that
questionable. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so.
So that would be one of those conspiracy theories you're talking about. There are many people that say that was a hit.
So, I mean, the thing is, that's what happens. Like I said, the United States well knows has spies all over the world, literally, and but they're not really spies there. Let's change the name of what they're really doing.
Well, apparently one of those spies is getting to come to Canada, and that was the other story that I mentioned, because she was a pro-democracy advocate and everything, a Hong Kong activist, and now she's getting to join Sasha over there in Canada. She's jumping bail. She said, I don't have to put up with my trial here in Hong Kong. I'm gonna jump bail and I'm gonna go live in Canada. And I don't know whether Canada's going to try to return her or whether they're going to let her stay in Canada.
The thing is, if you ever go to Vancouver, British Columbia, it's full of Chinese. They're Hong Kong Chinese. They abandoned China a long time ago because they could see this coming. Rich people aren't stupid, and as long as they can get transport themselves from country to country, they'll do it. They saw this whole problem of China coming in and taking over Hong Kong, and they bailed out. They took their money, and they went to Vancouver, British Columbia. So there's a big Chinese community right now in Vancouver. Would not surprise me if she went to Vancouver. She said, heck with this, because they don't have the freedom of speech that we do here. Our program, we'd be thrown out of China. As a matter of fact, I don't think we even broadcast in China right now.
Well, there are places we go to. I've seen some Chinese listings in our folks, but I don't know there's as heavy as, say, Brazil, the United States, and Canada, and other places. But there have been a couple of times that I've seen China listed, and it could be the Chinese government watching this for all I know.
China doesn't show up on I can.
That's a country
backdoor-
that you pick on all the time, and we mentioned it last time. I wanted to get everybody's opinion on this, but there is a Latin American country. I mentioned it on the Friday news as well, that I said they were going to have a Sunday vote. They did have the Sunday vote. They have now said that, hey, half of part of this region that is in Guyana, it's our region and everything. So they have even rejected the International Court of Justice ruling on the border dispute. So while we're talking about what's going on, maybe we're going to have a war between Venezuela and the oil-rich nation of Guyana, because, like I said,
rich in Venezuela. By the way, this is a great story, Mark. It was barely mentioned in the Wall Street Journal. It's actually in the opinion section this morning, without the result of the election. They said we don't know what the result of the election is going to be, but it sounds to me there might be a controversy between Venezuela and Guyana, and this will be very interesting because it's in our back door. Also, more interesting is the communist dictatorship of Venezuela has literally destroyed that country. If there's any argument against communism, which to me, he's not really a communist, he's just a ideological thug. You know, he's not pure communism in the right thing. It's Venezuela. They're the poster child of why it doesn't work. Because what happens is they go, oh, free for everybody. And then all the people, and by the way, we'll take over all the oil fields, and all the people that knew how to run them left. And guess what? All the morons that sat in Venezuela didn't have a clue how to extract oil out of the ground. And so what happened to the country? It went to toilet. It was a top oil producing country. The GDP of everybody was rising rapidly. It was one of the wealthiest countries, if not the wealthiest country in Latin America. I'm talking about Venezuela. It went to the poorest. Now what happens? Guyana, believe it or not, was one of the poorest countries, but they decided to extract their bloody oil. It's English speaking and run by Indians, not American Indians, but Indians from where Steve's from, on the other side of the world, coming in as indentured servants. There's only 700,000 people there, so it's not a big country. But they're now the fourth highest in the Americas, behind US, Canada, Bahamas, and the GDP of Guyana. Okay, so now you have a successful country. So here we have a successful country, which is Guyana, whose GDP is moving up. People are economically good. And here you have a trash country called Venezuela, who's run by a communist dictator who causes immigration problems in the United States. Do you think the United States should invade and quash Venezuela? I'd do it in a New York minute. I'd quash them. I'd send the U.S. Navy over in Venezuela, take the thug, throw him out, and tell Russia and China to go mind the Monroe Doctrine. But
Nick, hold on a second. Nick, hold on a second. Part of the problem in that theory is that when there have been countries that we didn't like their government, but we felt that they were an ally for whatever reasons, that's why we didn't go out aggressively against him as we probably should have. A lot of people will remember that Nicaragua was a very small country and that we had an allyship with Nicaragua and the whole Noriega drug trade and a bunch of other things that existed. And I'm wondering if that is not the same case with Venezuela, that we see them as a that's why we're not going as aggressively against them as maybe we should and everything, because definitely that's what might be happening. I'm not in the CIA, White House, so I don't know what their thoughts are in that
conspiracy theory, no garbage. We just say we're going to send the military and we're going to overthrow you. Period. You know, and let the nations.
You would invade a country strictly over money and oil?
Absolutely. In a New York minute. What's your problem? You know, I mean, the thing is, if you see what's going on there, remember they've created a lot of problems at our border. Our border problems are Venezuelans escaping a horrible regime down in Caracas, which used to be a good regime. Okay, it is our duty. It's not only it's our moral and ethical and financial duty to take over Venezuela. Okay, and we should do it. There's absolutely no reason. We have the military might. We have the $1 trillion budget. We'll probably have the blessing of Russia and China because they love to take over their countries too, and they have oil. They are.
Hold on a second, Nick. Hold on a second, Nick. Hold on a second, Nick. By that same logic, I'm gonna actually throw something at Sasha and everything. By that same logic, it is my understanding from talking to different people, not just here on the network, but just in general as well, that we have a Matter of fact, one of the national stories I was going to get to. We have an opioid and a fentanyl crisis that is going on and everything. And it is my understanding that while quite a bit of that is coming from Latin America, there is quite a bit of it that is also coming from Canada as well. So by your logic, you would take over Canada also, if I'm hearing you correctly. So if Canada is providing us with some of these drugs from the northern border, not just the southern border, then by your logic, you would be taking over Sasha's home country of Canada.
If we needed their oil, yes, but we don't, because we're going to take Venezuela over first, and we don't need Canadian oil. But absolutely, Mark. In other words,
so not the oil, but I'm saying if they're bringing us problems across the border.
My philosophy is really simple, Mark. Now, just listen to this real carefully. Put your 2 ears on. Might makes right. Okay, and we're done. So the thing is,
Nick, you forgot to mention
so
about
right
Canada.
now, it's not in our interest to take over Canada because all they have is oil shale. It's just hard to extract.
But Nick, might makes right.
There's no reason to take over Canada.
But if it's in our interest, yes, we take
It's
it.
ruled by a thug, Trudeau. So you have to get rid of Canadian people of this thug who wins election. It's something like Venezuela. You have
I hate to say it, Sasha, but if it's in the United States' best interest, which it isn't right now, take over Canada, yeah, we take them over. But right now, it is in the U.S.'s best interest to take over Venezuela. If they lay one bullet on Guyana, that gives us an excuse. Remember Tyler Tippecanoe and Tyler too did the same thing in the Mexican War. It gives us an excuse to go over, and we should, and overthrow Venezuela, take them over. That'll solve a lot of our immigration problems. These Venezuelans would go back to Venezuela if you had a country that worked. They have, Mark, the largest oil reserves in the world. More than Saudi Arabia. That is a potentially incredibly rich country. Okay,
Nick, hold on a second. Nick, hold on a second, because I want to get back to one of the national stories as well. So by that same logic, if there are people that are causing problems in the world because of what they're doing and everything, then we shouldn't be giving them immunity. Because one of the U.S. Supreme Court cases that I was getting ready to get to is going to scrutinize a controversial opioid settlement that would give the Sackler family, the Purdue Pharma people, immunity, because like I said, they're already
that's an OxyContin.
Everything.
Yeah, they were the OxyContin kings. The Sackler family owned Purdue, and apparently what they did is they oversold their OxyContin. In other words, they basically pushed the sales on people. And frankly, most of it was not addictive. 70% of the people that took it as a painkiller. But then you had, of the 30%, you had 15% of them were addicts. They became addicted to it, but they continued to push it. And of course, those people died, and it was big stuff. Now the Sackler family is trying to escape liability under the bankruptcy code, saying we'll agree to it as long as we can't be sued individually. This is going in front of the Supreme Court. It'll be interesting legal case to see what the Supreme Court says regarding that. So we are following that. I did see that in the news, and it's
we'll follow that case and everything. Hey, Sasha, I think you had a question for me. But before we get to that question, I did see another one that involved Ukraine, and that might have been what your question was, or even about Israel. But U.S. apparently is running out of money for Ukraine, and that could hinder the fight against Russia. This is what the White House said earlier today. So they say that the U.S. funding may be drying up despite NATO's support for Ukraine. So I know that you talked about how NATO is increasing their support, but apparently the U.S. is now pulling out. So the White House has warned Congress of the urgent need for more Ukraine funding. So I guess we're trying to get some more money from our government into Ukraine and all in that space. Because apparently,
so full of it. Joe is so full of it. Okay, he's so full of himself. The fact is, the government budget for our defense, which is over $800 billion, is discretionary, and he has used the discretion to pay off over $200 billion in student loans. He's used his discretion to pay over $800 billion in what they call PPP loans, and he can use his discretion to move military might over to Ukraine. So the White House, once again, and I've read a lot of the stuff that comes out of the White House, including the budget. All I have to do is read the preamble budget. They really should have a critical reading course, and you could see it's one of the biggest sales jobs I have ever seen in my life. So
where's the media?
Washington, D.C. Pardon?
Where's the media on this?
The media is completely out to lunch. I've been on this planet.
Out to lunch or complicit? There's a difference.
Hey, Lee, and you're a smart guy. Did you ever take a course?
I'm from Georgia, I thought.
That's what I'm saying. So I think the answer is going to be a definite no. But let me ask you. I'll ask you just in fairness to the redneck in Georgia. Did you ever take a course on the U.S. budget?
On the U.S. budget itself, no.
Did you ever read the
On budgeting, yes. And I really, and this is where,
budget? Did you ever?
and this is what we really should do. Zero-based budgeting should be mandatory.
I know. Did you ever read the U.S. budget in any course?
No, not the whole thing. No.
Okay. Now, why not? Okay. Why not? Okay. I know they like to keep us Southerners stupid. By the way, I'm from Florida. So that's part of the reason we don't like Georgians anyway. They like to keep Southern people stupid. But I believe people throughout the whole United States, no one has read the U.S. budget.
I agree with you on that. Nick, hold on a second. Because Lee just used a very interesting word. So I was actually going to come back to one of our other discussions and everything, because he used a word that people use in a lot of cases, whether it is politics or whether it is state governments. As a matter of fact, apparently Liz Cheney had some very interesting thoughts around which way the country will go that apparently Lindsey Graham doesn't agree with, because apparently Cheney was saying that the Republican House majority in 2025 would present a threat to the country and all in that space. And definitely there was even a fear of a looming Donald Trump dictatorship. And then Graham has dismissed Liz Cheney's Trump warning, saying the world will be truly on fire if Biden is reelected. Her words, not mine, and everything. But you used the word complicit. And that is the question I think a lot of people are asking, even about the knowledge that the spy network may have had in Israel and everything. So are you complicit if you have knowledge of something and you don't do something against that and all along those lines? Because I was interested if you used that word complicit.
That's more garbage. I mean, I heard that the colleges didn't do enough when the war broke out. Look, they're it's not their war, buddy. Okay. And so the thing is, no, they don't have to come out with positions one way or the other. This is just these groups, and I don't care if it's Palestinian or Israelis, that come up that just want their agenda put forth through the colleges. And the colleges should do the right thing, saying, it's your fight, buddy. Okay? Don't drag us into your fight, period. So no, you don't have to be pro or con. You can stay out of this stuff. Hey, here, speaking of pro and con, here comes the most pro and con person I saw, Jatovy, baby. Look, I got your communist newspaper, Mother Jones. These suckers do not get enough good press. I get Mother Jones. You probably don't because you're a right-wing radical. But us leftists, man, we read Mother Jones. And you know what? They have some good articles. It's like the Playboy of the left. I read Mother Jones because I like the articles. So your copy is out today, Mother Jones, and it's got some great stuff in it. I want to give them some plug because, believe it or not, they've been sued by these right-wing extremist groups trying to drive them into bankruptcy using the litigation process. So I kind of feel sorry for good old Mother Jones out there. But yes, it is. They have great articles like dating predators on websites. Don't send kids to these crazy facilities. I mean, they dig up some really good stuff. Apparently, foster kids are going to these private, wealthy, publicly traded companies, and they're billing Medicaid like $300,000 per kid. Then the radicals took over the Michigan GOP, whatever that means. Anyway,
hey, Nick, apparently we were talking about this on media and everything.
Charging prisoners like $4 for a bloody telephone call. It should be free.
Yeah, but Nick, again, they do charge that. So Nick, we're talking about this on the media show, but apparently a television show has actually caused somebody to confess on their deathbed. So apparently an NCIS episode of all things led Thomas Randall, formerly Ted Conrad, to confess. So his daughter was shocked after the fugitive father confessed to a 1969, we were talking about bank robberies earlier, a 1969 bank robbery on his deathbed. So apparently he told his daughter this secret that he had robbed his bank a long time ago. So maybe that's why they had all this wealth and everything from almost 40 something years ago, or something, actually more than 50 years ago, and all in that space. But yeah, he confessed to having this deathbed confession and was letting his daughter know that, hey, some of this money you got, I got it in the 1969 bank robbery. But apparently it was an NCIS episode that caused him to want to confess.
Well, the statute of limitations covers it, so it doesn't really matter. You know, I mean, Mark, if you dig back far enough in history, you're going to find some nefarious things that took place at some point in time. So, you know, right now it's barred through the statute of limitations. The only thing that isn't barred is murder and immigration. Now, if he said, I immigrated here illegally, guess what? They got a serious problem. This shows you how stupid our immigration laws are. But
hey, well, speaking of it, hey, I hope you bring this up on Economics Monday, which I know will be coming up in Monday. But apparently, a conservative-backed couple's claim for a $14,729 refund could help the Supreme Court kill a wealth tax on billionaires and throw the entire tax regime into chaos. Hate to tell you this, Lee, but your whole career may be going into chaos because it says one Supreme Court case could mess up chunks of the tax code. So one couple's investment could totally shake up the U.S. taxes.
It'll be a great case because if you earn money overseas and you didn't bring it into the United States, then you don't pay taxes on it. I mean, for the wealthy people, that's a great deal because what you do is you set up your operations overseas, you make money there, and you don't bring it in here and you pile up money overseas. You know who's taken advantage of that, Mark? Apple, Google, Microsoft, Facebook. All the big tech companies have their headquarters in Ireland, whether people know it or not. It's called the Double Dutch Irish Treaty, and they pay at a much reduced rate. That's the reason the U.S. corporate tax rate is a joke, because if your company is well enough, and this started with Google a long time ago, they sold their search engine to Ireland. By the way, you can look it up. It's all on the internet. You don't need a conspiracy spy to figure this out. And they accumulate and then they rent out their search engine to the United States, so they deduct it, accumulating all their money in Ireland and their subsidiary paying a maximum rate of 15% because of the treaty. This has been going on for decades. Where's the American public? Where's the American media? Why don't they tell you about the Double Dutch Irish Treaty? Every good tax attorney in the country know about it. But
we're the Democrats who complain the rich don't pay their fair share.
What?
Wait a second.
Those who say the rich don't pay their fair share, where are they?
Well, they don't. Why do they want to pay?
They are the ones who are saying that.
They hire attorneys to set up these double Dutch Irish sandwiches, and the reason it's double Dutch, they send it over to the Netherlands and get even a more reduced rate. So the most rate they pay on their overseas income is around 2%, the most. So here's what happens: the American media is complicit in. But Google the double Dutch Irish theory. I'm not making. It's not a conspiracy.
I've heard it before.
But okay. Nick, that's just one of many of the tax loopholes that lead.
They're not loopholes.
The Democrat Party is pushing through.
Stop saying loopholes. This is the law of the United
States. It's written into the code. They're not loopholes. They're intentionally put in there.
They're intentionally put in there.
It's literally a loophole.
It's not a loophole. It was intentionally put in there to build up the economy of Ireland, by the way, which was in the toilet. And most international tax sheltered countries are designed to build up their country by setting up offshore subsidiaries. Now, the real problem is you probably didn't take international taxation when you were in high school or college, did you, Jacoby? So you don't know jack.
It's a way to avoid paying taxes, isn't it?
Yes. Then what's your problem with that?
Isn't that the same thing as loopholes to avoid the taxes?
It doesn't, mortgage interest is deductible. Is that a loophole? Nope, it's the law. It's the law. Just because you don't know about the law.
Can that be changed to help people, quote unquote, to quote Lee, pay their fair share?
Fair share.
Your fair share is whatever the law determines you should pay. You don't have to pay more than that. No one should pay more than what they're legally obligated to pay.
Who's paying their fair share? Mother Jones's baby.
Hold on a second, Nick, and hold on a second, everybody. Can you invest in offshore accounts? Because one of the things that I hear people always talk about is people investing in like these offshore accounts that are in like the Cancun or wherever they might be and everything. And that is perceived by many as being a loophole. But if I'm hearing you correctly, that is not a loophole, that if you go ahead and invest in offshore accounts.
You can set up offshore deferred annuities, but guess what? You can do that here in the United States. It's not a loophole. You can have deferred annuities.
So in other words, you're saying that the rich who have these lawyers like Nick and can pay these rich accountants like Lee can do things that the common man cannot do.
Absolutely.
Toby, it's actually worse than that. It's more devious. The rich can donate for the politicians to make the laws that are convenient for them.
Hold on.
Jacoby,
So
you're absolutely
you're
right.
saying, now, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Trying to wrap my head around this.
I know you're
Now,
having a
you're
hard
saying
time. with this.
that the Democrat Party, who's complaining about paying your fair share, closing tax loopholes, and all these ways to avoid paying taxes, are bad. Yet the GOP, who is
They're both in on it, Toby. They're both in on it.
It's a big conspiracy. Remember, he's from Georgia. Everything's a conspiracy.
Who actually even said, literally said that he's smart because he found ways to avoid paying taxes. So he champions ways about paying taxes. The GOP's platform champions ways about paying taxes.
Right.
But we're trying to figure out where the Democrat Party is.
Hey, listen,
And why
Toby, it's both parties.
Hold on a second. Speaking of both parties, hold on a second. Speaking of both parties, then we finally, because a friend of mine asked me why it took so long, but then we finally get somebody to finally be exiled from the party, and now they're gonna have a special election because of some of the shenanigans that he was doing. But apparently, Santos is now officially gone and everything. So I was wondering the folks' thoughts around this, because apparently Santos is totally gone, and definitely that was some of those political shenanigans we've been talking about.
Yeah, he's a good get rid of him. I mean, the guy lies about everything. I mean, you know.
Wait a minute, Nick. I don't disagree with you, but he's a good company in Washington.
No, the leading candidate of the GOP lies more than Santos.
Oh,
does he? And the Democrats, they don't lie. The guy who pulls a fire alarm, he doesn't lie.
No, the guy who pulled the fire alarm owned up to it and said that he apologized because he did whatever. He said he
So
did
apologizing makes things just go away.
But the funny thing is, you're throwing out these whataboutisms, but won't take ownership for the fact that the leading candidate, who has more than 90 charges against him, has been indicted more than 4 times, is an actual felon because he did get convicted of a crime.
What crime? What felony did he get convicted of?
Sexual abuse.
No, he did not. Oh, come on, Jacoby. Be honest about that. Don't make stuff up.
I'm not making it up. Look it up.
He did not get convicted of a felony. That was a civil suit. It wasn't a criminal suit. That was a civil suit.
Did he get convicted?
No.
He did not get convicted. You said it was a civil suit. And if you want
civil suit, you can't get convicted of.
So he did not get convicted and have to pay millions of dollars to the woman that he abused.
Civil suits, you pay money for, but that's not a conviction. That's not a felony.
Stop, Lee. Did he not have to pay millions of dollars to a woman that he abused? Did he lose the court case?
Yeah, but that doesn't make him a felon.
Then what are you arguing for?
Because you called him a felon.
What are you arguing for? The answer
No,
is
hold on a second. He said he was a criminal, and a criminal. I mean, even if you get convicted of misdemeanor, you're still technically a criminal and everything.
But Mark, but the point is, you can if you lose a civil suit, that doesn't make you a criminal.
You lost that argument. You're arguing over nothing. He got convicted.
No, he did not.
He got convicted. Look it up.
He got obligated to pay a civil penalty.
Right now. I'm gonna pull up the article right now and read exactly
Please do.
what he got convicted of. Trump
Please do.
Convicted.
Lee, why are you even bothering, right? Jatovi's always right, especially when he's completely wrong, right? So he doesn't know the difference between a civil case and a criminal case. Just let him be. Let him be. He just sit there in his own delusional world that he lives in.
Nick, can convicted felons run for president? Convicted felons, can they run for president?
No.
So it should be an open and shut case then, Jacoby.
Toby, when you do your research, you're wrong. It was a civil suit. And
he can't tell the difference. It's been explained to him. He wants to ask these one-worded questions.
Was he convicted?
Okay. He was convicted in a civil
Thank you.
suit.
That's the whole point. You said he was convicted. You agreed.
He was convicted.
It's not a conviction. He had a ruling against him. He got a ruling against him.
He was convicted.
No.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on. Hold on a second. Hold on. Oh, hey, everybody. Everybody. I was actually going to give an example, and this is actually from an article that I saw, and it is actually from OJ. And all of that. Hold on, Jacoby, you as well. Everybody, hold on. The article that I found, which is actually from a legal source and everything, says O.J. Simpson was not guilty of murdering Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Gilman as judged by criminal court by a criminal court jury. Yet a civil
that's
court
correct, Mark.
Yet a civil court jury held him legally responsible for their deaths. So how is the civil court's determination different from the criminal?
Let me explain why. Let me explain to you why. Because in a criminal case,
you're not a lawyer. Let's let the lawyer talk. Shaq, let the lawyer talk.
In a criminal case,
shut up, man. Shut up. Let the lawyer talk.
No, Jacoby, I just want to hear the dog. Let the dog talk. Who let the dog out?
Let the lawyer
shut up
talk.
for a second. You've had your bit. Shut up for a
We
moment.
have a lawyer here.
Yes, and the lawyer so
You're
far was
not a
wrong.
lawyer. You're not
The
a
lawyer
lawyer.
so far was wrong in what he
Right.
said. Jacoby, you don't want to hear from me. Other
Let the
people do. So
lawyer
why don't you just be
talk.
quiet? Why
Let
don't you just
the
be quiet?
lawyer talk.
Okay, you've said
Please let
that.
the lawyer
Now
talk.
just be quiet for a
Criminal
second.
and civil.
Just be quiet for a moment, okay?
We're
Because the
gonna talk
lawyer
about
that's
US
on here
law.
was already wrong.
You're over talking the lawyer. Let the
Jacoby,
lawyer talk.
Jacoby, you've
Where's
already
the
said you
lights
want the
off?
lawyer to talk. Can you just be quiet now? You've expressed
I'm
that.
trying
Can
to
you
let
just
the
be
lawyer
quiet?
talk, but you're not.
But you're not the host of the show, so just be quiet for a second.
You're not
The
either.
lawyer,
Hold on a second, Shaquille.
Jacoby-
Give us your explanation, but I do want to hear from Nick afterwards.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you. Firstly, the lawyer on the show has already said something which is legally incorrect, which is that a convicted felon can't run for president. That's not the case. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that. Secondly, and more importantly, in relation to civil and criminal cases, a criminal case, for you to be convicted, you have to be convicted beyond a reasonable doubt. It's the highest standard anywhere in the Western world. In a civil case, you need to be convicted on the preponderance of the evidence. Two very big differences. That's why O.J. Simpson was found not guilty of killing his wife in a criminal case, but was found civilly liable. That's exactly the same reason why, in a civil case that Donald Trump was involved in, he was not convicted of a crime. He lost the civil case and had to pay millions of dollars, but he was not convicted of a crime. So therefore, he's not a felon. Neither does he have a misdemeanor as a result of that civil case. And you can sit there and pull all the
civil case was he found
faces.
guilty? Let's ask the
You
lawyer.
can
The
sit
lawyer's
there and
next.
pull
The
all the
lawyer's
stunned
next. The lawyer's
faces
next.
that you like,
You're done.
but
The
you're
lawyer's next.
still wrong, and you're still an idiot. Nick, go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well. Thank you for that. But there is a difference between.
Well, is there
the
anything that I
standard-
said that was incorrect?
Oh,
there, Nick?
Lord, now you're
Did
going to
you
overtalk
say-
the lawyer, and you're
There's
not
no
the
Is
one
lawyer.
there anything that I
There's
said
only
there
one
that
thing
was
that's
legally
argumentative.
incorrect?
The only one thing is argumentative whether or not he can run for president. There's nothing
Yes, he
direct
can.
in the Constitution. Okay, but let's go take a look at the civil and criminal. It's the burden of proof that the attorney has to put on. In a civil case, which Donald Trump was found guilty of, the burden of proof was more likely than not he did it. And same with O.J. Simpson, more likely than not he did it. In a criminal case, it's proof beyond any reasonable doubt, which O.J. Simpson was found not guilty and Trump was not prosecuted on. So here we have it. He had a civil suit against him. He lost a civil sexual harassment. And that's it, And so, no, he doesn't have a criminal record at this point in time. He's got a lot of lawsuits against him, but he hasn't really lost a big one. And like somebody said, even if he did, will that destroy his run for the presidency when it's probably going to be a misdemeanor?
Nick, can I remind you, Counselor?
Actually destroy
Can I
his
remind
run
you,
for the
Counselor?
presidency.
Jacoby,
The reason
I've already just
it
come on.
won't
You've had
destroy
50
his run
minutes.
for the presidency.
Yeah, I
is
have to
due
get ready for my next
Jacoby,
show.
you've had 50 minutes. I've only just come on. Nicholas,
Well,
And
lawyers
actually,
like-
Jacoby has
Can I-
only been
can
on
I
briefly
just
as well.
remind
Yeah, I've
you-
only
Jacoby's
been on
been
briefly,
as well.
Shaq. I've only
Nicholas,
came
can I
on
just
maybe a
can I
minute
just
before
remind you
you.
if you believe that having a criminal conviction, felony, misdemeanor, or
No.
otherwise disbars you from being able to run for president, can I just remind you, please, of Eugene v. Debs?
Okay.
I know you're backstage, Nick.
Now,
So
what we're gonna
Google it
now
and
what
come back.
Nick brought up. Now, what Nick brought up is true. It will not destroy his run for presidency because you have a lot of people that don't care about what has happened, what he's done.
Mhm.
It's already baked in the cake. Baked in the cake in 2016. the fact that he had a history, he had a history of doing particular things, and people actually overlooked that. And due to the fact that, you know, everybody was looking for somebody completely different and somebody out of the box, yes, it's already baked in the cake that his core group, that 20 to 30% that have locked in, that MAGA crowd will be the loudest crowd. They are behind him, regardless what goes on. Even the fact that, yes, he lost the case. Yes, he has 90 cases against him. Yes, he has 4 indictments. And what I will completely agree with Trump on is the fact that he legitimately stated that he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and he wouldn't lose any votes. And that is proving to be true, because no matter what he does, he is a good marketer, and he has turned a lot of those disadvantages to anybody else. Anything. I mean, you talk about age. We don't see Trump going up and down stages and all this other stuff on TV. We see him in front of the podium doing whatever, and he sounds energetic. But just as with Biden, he's still feeble when he walks around. He has tripped. His cognitive ability does sound pretty bad.
I don't know how you do it.
Behind him,
I really don't. I've been drinking since I was 12 years old, and I can tell you I've partied on something wicked. And I don't think, even in my most drunken, idiotic state, that I have ever been as delusional as you. And I don't know how you do it. It must be fun. It really must be fun to be
Shaquille, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
And misinformed as you are, it
Shaquille,
must be
Shaquille, just really quick. Shaquille, really quickly, because there was one other thing that I was getting ready to get to before we go to the economic show and everything. But you are correct. A clean criminal record is not among the criteria the Constitution sets for who is eligible to be president.
When have I ever quoted U.S. law, especially U.S. case law, and been wrong? Okay, whether it be Nick, whether it be when we've had the dean of I won't name them, the deans of law universities in America. When have I ever been wrong? I'm not trying to be big-headed about it, but when have I ever been wrong? Okay,
I'm not trying to be big-headed, but
you studied the Constitution, you studied the Bill of Rights. I'm not arguing that and everything. The only thing I was going to hold on a second.
It's not just
the only thing I was going to add to.
Not only do I know U.S. law really bloody well, okay, but I also, unlike your great friend Jatovia over there, happen to know the difference between a civil case and a criminal conviction.
So he lost the civil case?
You're an idiot.
Which is what I pointed out.
Dead set, right? Seriously.
No,
maybe you should take some Adderall. I hear this.
I want to hear this. Hold on, Shaq. According to your great wealth of knowledge, and of course the the outcome of the case, did he lose that case?
It's still not a criminal conviction to tell me.
Did he lose the case?
Don't go changing the goalposts.
Shaq, why can't you answer? The goalposts. Shaq, it's not moving the goalposts.
That's already been conceded.
Did he lose the case?
You said, and you argued with Lee about it. You argued with Lee, you wrote about it, and it's the same issue. Did he lose the case?
It's the same issue. Did he lose?
I'm not going to argue with you, mate, because I try.
Thank you.
Well, just really quickly,
we all agree he lost.
No,
so it doesn't matter.
I promise you.
He lost.
I promise you. There's 5 of us on here. This is actually what Nick was attesting to. The fact that he lost that case, Shaq is still defending him. I'm not defending him. Why would I?
Jacoby, this started because you called him a felon.
I did not call him a felon. I said he was convicted.
Of a felony.
I said he was convicted. You added in felony and all the other stuff.
You have to back up the video.
Jacoby, Nick.
I said convicted. I own up to what I said. You stated felon and added that in there. I said
back up the video. You look at the rerun. We'll talk on Monday. Or it is Monday. Tomorrow, Tuesday.
I am more than welcome to back up the video. Again, I legitimately stated my argument.
You said that. Let's respond. You said that. Let's respond.
90 cases plus against him, 4 indictments. He has been convicted. You then jumped in with what
you've now said that 3 times. Let us respond to you.
Abuse.
Jacoby, let us respond to you.
Went off the rails.
Jacoby, if all you said he was convicted, why would I have brought up the distinction between civil and criminal?
Because you were arguing.
Jacoby,
Over what?
he wasn't convicted.
Because you
and
were
Nick-
defending the whole point. It
Jacoby,
started because we
Nick-
talked about lying. And then I pointed out all the convictions. That's the way that it went down.
If
And
all
then
you said was he was convicted, there was nothing to argue with.
re-rolled the tape. When I jumped in and I said the leading candidate of the Republican Party lies more than Santos, you took offense for some reason, and then we went down the road. I pointed out the 91 cases, the 4 indictments, and he has been convicted. Those were my exact words. And then
Jacoby, now
jumped
that
in
you said that, can we respond? We've got 15 seconds. Can we respond? Firstly,
Let me hear what
Nick
Jack wants to say.
Nick already disabused you of that. A civil case, as did I, a civil case where you get a ruling against you is not a conviction. And secondly, even if it was a criminal conviction, that does not disbar you from being able to run for president. Nick was
I
wrong
never
about the
said
president
he
thing.
couldn't run
Nick
for
was wrong
president.
about the president thing, and you were wrong
That
about
was a
it being
Nick
a
thing.
conviction. A
Nick
civil case
said
is
he
not a
couldn't run
conviction.
for president.
And Jacoby, a civil case is not a conviction. And just to prove that point, if you've ever
Did
been
you
prosecuted
lose the
for a
case?
speeding ticket in the United States and you lose, that is also a civil matter and not
Yes.
a conviction.
Did
So-
he lose the case?
Mark,
Yes.
economics is on.
Jacoby, I will leave you with your delusions.
Can
and I'll
we
just put it on
agree that he
Facebook.
lost the
Goodbye.
case around sexual
Hold on a second.
abuse?
To answer your question, Lee, economics is a weird grade that started. It might have already started and everything. The only other thing that I was going to hear, and I'd love to hear your two thoughts, is we did lose a great Supreme Court justice and everything. So that's why I was going to go on the closing and everything. So if anybody has any thoughts, and not everybody agreed with everything that she did, and some people saw her as a moderate, some people saw her as a ultra conservative, everything. But the first woman to be appointed, I believe, to the Supreme Court, Sandra Day O'Connor, did pass away on Friday. So I didn't know if anybody had any thoughts or recollections on Sandra Day O'Connor and her legacy.
We should probably pick up on her tomorrow, and just whether you agree with her or not, because of her position, I think she deserves more than just 5 seconds at a closing.
I agree. We'll pick up on her on tomorrow and talk about her some more on tomorrow. I can definitely agree with y'all on that, and we'll continue the conversation around Sandra Day O'Connor on tomorrow. And I've actually got some people that I'm reaching out to that might even have some legal background as well. But right now, we're going to give you that intro, and get ready to get on out of here. And I know folks are heading over to economics and media as well. There was another lively discussion. I did not mean to not get to Sasha's question, but hopefully he'll remember it and give it to me on tomorrow. But we got into all these other debates and discussions that I did not get a chance to hear what his question was. But hopefully I'll get it at a later point and all in that time. But we're going to get on out of here. I thought it was a lively and wonderful discussion about everything from spying to conspiracy. I think me and Lee agree. There are definitely conspiracies out there.
We always agree, Mark.
They are legitimate.
Y'all have a good day. Take care. God bless.
Lee, before you leave,
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
I'm sorry I didn't get to see you before Thanksgiving, so I couldn't wish you happy Thanksgiving. Hope you still have
Jacoby, just so you can sleep tonight, Merry Christmas.
Hey, you see what's behind me?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, just in case. You too, Mark. Take care. We'll speak. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, dear.